guests, I would like to call to order this budget briefing of Subcommittee M of the Committee on Finance on the budgets of the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, Small Business Corporation, and the Center for International Trade and Export Missions, starting with the deliberation of the BCDA budget. Good morning to you all, and may I ask the committee secretary to acknowledge our resource persons for the BCDA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me acknowledge the presence of our officials and resource persons for today's budget hearing of BCDA. We have the Honorable Chairman, Delphine Loren Zana, the President and CEO, Joshua Bingkang, the Executive Vice President, we have Attorney Gisela Calalo, the Head Executive Assistant, we have Attorney Elvira Estanislao, the Senior Vice President, we have Heda Rulona. We also have Virgil Alvarez, Mr. Richard Brian Sipe, Mark Torres, Ryan Galura, Cheryl Corpus, Mr. Daryl Garcia, Jennifer Malio, Ms. Sheena Tarse. We also have Ms. Alma Caballero, Ethel Soliman, Christiana May Almohuela, Michelle Calica, Mark James Evangelista, Renato Asi Jr., and from the Commission on Audit of BCDA, we have Teresita Guevara. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Comsec, and good afternoon to the BCDA family. Afternoon. Before we start with the presentation, allow me first to express my full support to the Basis Conversion and Development Authority 2024 proposed budget. During my term as the Secretary of DPWH, BCDA was one of our most effective partners in realizing the completion of pipeline projects under the Build, Build, Build program. BCDA also played a major role in our pandemic response to the completion of numerous quarantine facilities for healthcare workers and COVID-19 patients. Now, as we enter the era of the new normal, I'm looking forward to yet more fruitful results from the BCDA. Upon careful perusal of the proposed 2024 budget of the BCDA, we see that 0.04% of the national budget is allocated to the BCDA, amounting to 2.1 billion pesos. I am keen to know how the BCDA plans to utilize this budget in hopes of addressing the rising concerns related to the agency. One issue that I would like to discuss are the updates on the development of the Clark Airport and the new Clark City, as well as other ongoing infrastructure development programs in the area, in other areas. We recognize the importance of our military in the development of the country's capacity to defend our national interests. As such, I'm also looking forward to the details of the relocation and replication plans of the headquarters and other infrastructures of the Philippine Marines, the Philippine Navy, and the Clark Air Base. I saw the need to develop our military bases when I was DPWH Secretary. So through the TICAS program, we have built a few development facilities in our military bases. That view has not changed even now, as I have filed Senate Bill number 1132, or the TICAS Act, which will seek to institutionalize it. I would also like to know the plans of the BCDA for the supposed realignment plans of the AFP shares from the BCDA budget for the modernization of their trust fund, as per the recent statement of our Defense Secretary. To end, I would like to affirm my support for BCDA, as they are one of the key partners in the success of the country's infrastructure budget. As we move towards a sustainable economy, the sustainability of our infrastructures, particularly of our military, should also be one of our goals for the next fiscal year. For the efficiency of today's hearing, we're allotting 10 minutes for the presentation of the BCDA. To my fellow senators, kindly refrain from raising questions until the agency has exhausted their presentations, and your questions will be entertained in order of your arrival. So at this point, let us proceed with the BCDA presentation. In the interest of time, I respectfully request from my colleagues, of course, we can finish the BCDA presentation before questions or clarification. So at this point, thank you very much, and I'd like to give the floor to the BCDA.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for these good words that you have said about BCDA. We are very proud that we are contributing a lot to to national development and also for the modernization of the AFP. So without much ado, I'll turn over to President Jake Pinkang to give the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman. So we are now going to present our 2024 budget proposal, which is conceived under the One Clark program of BCDA right now, where we want to consolidate not all our assets, not just for New Clark City, but also for Clark Pre-Port Zone, Clark International Airport, as was properly mentioned by the Senator in his introduction earlier. So may we now share on screen our proposed presentation? There, thank you. So we can move now on the next slide, which is our 2024 GAA proposal. So on screen, Mr. Senator, Mr. Chairman, is our 2024 approved national expenditure program amounting to 2.1 billion pesos. Although this is lower than our initially requested amount of 5.8 billion. And then this is also even lower than our 2.6 billion 2023 budget. But later on, as we will present our programs, you will see that we will be needing more funds to allow us to implement our programs and plans, not just for development, but also for our contribution to the modernization of the military. Under the next slide, you can see that the utilization of BCDA as of 27th September 2023, we are very happy to note that we are already at 92%, which is considered to be a high level for national government agencies. Because we, out of the 2.6 SARO amount we got from DBM, we already obligated 2.46 billion. And out of these amounts, we got a total of NCA from 2.9 billion and 1.7 from starting this year. We were able to disburse more than 3 billion, Mr. Senator, 3.3 billion pesos. So at more than 70%. And we will be targeting to hit and utilize all those remaining NCA that was provided to us by DBM amounting to 1.2 as we continue to process the remaining payments entitled from the contractors. Next slide. We would like to give the body that our programs in the coming years are anchored on further developing Clark. So as mentioned by the Senator, we will be pursuing plans for the continued modernization of our airport in Clark as a main gateway for the country. The new Clark City that we will be promoting, especially under this initial stage of development, and also the additional programs for Clark Pre-Port Zone, which is already home to more than 100,000 workers. Okay, next. And our programs is also are anchored on the national government's program for the next 5 years. We call them Big Bold Moves. So we have these three major programs. Number one is to unlock the full potential of Clark. We have an ongoing request or a bill in the Senate right now, which was already approved in the lower house version, which is the amendment of the BCDA law. Part of the request in that amendment is the extension of the BCDA corporate life. As you may be aware, Mr. Chairman, we only have 19 years remaining in our corporate life. But if we would want to pursue these long-term projects that will allow us to enter into contracts of all kinds for at least 25 to 50 years, so we will be needing more years corporate life for BCDA. And included also in that proposal is to allow certain lands in Clark Special Economic Zones and other economic zones of BCDA to be converted from leasehold to freehold, and we will explain later. And if we can achieve that, then we will be able to pursue the other projects of BCDA. So among these are clearing up the Air Force City area in Clark. This is occupying more than 300 hectares. And we will show later on the project. So on flash screen right now, as I mentioned earlier, the request, can you go back to the previous slide? Okay. Oh, one more slide, please. So one more slide. Yeah. So we will continue to do more public infrastructure. We will be building more development projects that will enable us to raise needed government funds that can be used and support the DND's programs for the military, not just for modernization, and including for the support for the pension fund. And we will be also supporting the government's housing program, building more mass transport projects and utilities for Clark. So on the next slide, we can see some of the steps that we will be doing. This one, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Chairman, is the amendment of RA 7227. So if you can see on the slide, lahat po kasi ng mga developers ngayon, nasa labas lang sila ng Clark. No? Wala pong pumapasok sa Clark because of the limitations on the ownership of the land. Clark is only under leasehold. Ang mga Pinoy, ang mga Pilipino po, the Filipinos are not accustomed to renting just their house because we all know that can be considered one of the biggest accomplishment that one can have is to own its own residential house dahil naipapamana ito, it can be transferred. So if we will be able to get the support also of the Senate to amend this the bill in right now in the Senate to allow us to convert certain land. Not everything inside Clark will be converted to freehold, only residential, because that is the one that is critical to this kind of project. So we will be allocating only around 5 to 10% of our lands in Clark for residential. Then we will be addressing a huge housing demand inside Clark right now. Kasi ngayon, lumalabas pa sila, nagre-rent sa labas. So if we can address that, then it will also address transport problems and other issues on city management. Next slide. So we will be also transferring the Air Force, the Philippine Air Force, which is occupying a prime land inside the Clark Freeport Zone of around 300 hectares. So we will be transferring them to New Clark City. We have already agreed with the DND for this project, and we will start with the site development later this year. And we will be needing funds for the vertical structures naman ho. And also, the land that they will be vacated will be used later on for the expansion of the Clark International Airport, as it will be shown in the next slide. In the next slide ho kasi, we will be pursuing the expansion of the Clark International Airport for the next 5 years. Should the capacity of the existing capacity one po kasi right now has only, alam niyo po to, Mr. Chairman, it's part of the BBB build projects before that was completed in the past administration, and it's now being managed properly by Changi of Singapore. So if we will be breaching the capacity of 8 million. There's a need to expand already this Clark International Airport terminal, and we will also be needing to build a new runway. So dun po sila magagaling dun sa area that is being occupied right now by the Air Force. Next, this one is we continue to promote Clark as a MICE center. There's a need to build properly sized convention and exhibition complex. Ano po? So this is also in coordination with the Department of Budget and Management that they said we should be, Clark can be a perfect host for this kind of activities. Like sabi nga ako ni Secretary ng DBM, kesa pupunta pa ng Singapore para manood ng Taylor Swift, baka pwede naman sa Clark. Now, if we have the proper venue to accommodate this. And this is, we think, a good candidate for PPP project as well. So this can also be a potential source of revenue.
What's the capacity, expected capacity of the convention?
So right now, sir, we're expecting at least 20,000, the initial computation that we have. But I think that is still small compared to the Singapore stadium na Yeah, 50,000. So,
I think there's a need, baka dapat pag-aralan nyo rin. Kasi there's really a need for a bigger than, a very big venue for,
Yes.
what do you call it, MICE,
Yes,
conventions
yes,
and,
yes, sir.
anong tawag doon?
MICA.
MICE, yeah.
Meetings.
Meetings.
Instead,
I think the
conference,
biggest
exhibits, yeah.
now is only, how big yung mali, World Trade and then World
Maliit lang
Trade.
po yan,
Very small
15,000,
comparative.
yes,
So
sir.
we cannot attract
Yes,
international
sir,
events
correct.
with that. So maybe if you build one, it should be something that's internationally competitive kasi wala pang ganyan sa bansa.
Yes.
If you're gonna build one, gawin nyo ng pang international na. Diba?
Agree, Mr. Chairman. At least,
Anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting. But anyway, I just, cause I remember
Yes.
that. I just wanted to get that point across.
at least we share the same idea of the need, no? Especially,
The medium will be PPP or GAA?
some can be made under PPP, kasi not all of the facilities under this complex will be proper, maybe earning the sufficient return needed by the private sector. So initially we're thinking of PPP by bundling it with other lands for them to develop commercially viable facilities.
Is it a concept, at this point, are you at the conceptual design?
At the
or-
conceptual,
So wala pang detailed engineering?
wala pa.
Okay, so conceptual lang.
Yes, sir.
Not even FS?
Wala pa, sir.
Okay. So,
No, but this is
pwede
the-
pang baguhin.
Yes, of course. But the main driver also of this project is that it will be located near the airport, so we can have immediate access, not just for international passengers, but also for those coming from the south, like Davao, Cebu. They can immediately access the airport and go through these facilities. So they need that pass through Manila to access these kind of facilities. So yes. And then next is since we are developing a smart city in New Clark City, and we have built this infrastructure together with the ICT, now it's high time to monetize the project that the government have invested in the initial National Backbone Program. So we will be coming up with the terms of reference, invite private sector partners to develop the last mile connectivity in Clark. So we want the internet speed in our asset, to be at world-class speed like Singapore, Korea, and at the cost just a fraction of what we have right now to make this asset of ours very competitive. Kasi meron po tayong 500,000 Mbps na capacity na galing doon sa joint venture project namin with Facebook. So it's now time to monetize and put to application this investment that the CDA and DICT have done recently. Next, we want to move now on the ongoing replication projects that we have for the military. So the first one is the Philippine Navy facilities. The total replication cost is around 15 billion. But the phase one, we will be needing this amount, 1.3 for senior officers, 3.6 for Marine Merit officers, and Naval Hospitals 1.6. The reason why we are prioritizing these three facilities is that they will be affected by the Mega Manila Subway project of DOTR. So in order for DOTR to implement the project, the subway inside Fort Bonifacio, we need to replicate these three facilities first. And we have already agreed with the military in identifying the replication site. Next is the Philippine Marines naman ho. While the total project cost is 28 billion, we have provided them, we have donated 100 hectares of our property in Bataan to be the permanent site of the Philippine Marines. And we already got around 7.5 billion to implement the phase one. And our partner, the Marines, are very satisfied with the works that we are doing right now because we're doing a joint implementation with them as can be seen in the next slide. The next slide shows these are the ongoing projects that we are doing with them, and we are about to turn over already initial facilities for them for the grandstand because they want to celebrate their 75th anniversary ng Marines in Bataan. So we will be transferring the grandstand, one office building and one igloo for their ammunition. So we will be completing this entire project for until 2024, but the funds are not yet fully there, no, so, transferred to us. That's why we will be requesting for additional funds. Next is the Philippine Air Force, as I mentioned earlier, that will be relocated from Clark Freeport Zone to New Clark City. Ito po, ang facility na to naman, tapos na po yung detailed design. Ang ganda po ng design ito, ang mga, kaya tuwan-tuwa ang Air Force, because their facilities are, baka maingit po yung ibang units, but these were properly planned na parang private development po. We will start with the site development of 791 million, but we will be needing a complete amount of 3.5 billion pesos. Next are the road projects that BCDA has completed and will continue to implement to further enhance the value of New Clark City. Shown on the next slide are the completed ones. So, in fact, yung pong Sacobia Bridge along Airport NCC, siguro marami sa iyo dito nakakita na nun. Instagrammable na po siya sa social media. The good news is we will be opening it soon. No, the entire 20-kilometer road section will be open. And invite ko rin kayo, magkakaroon kami ng half marathon event on on December 17 to be organized by a famous runner natin, no, si Run Rio. So but other than what I've said, we are proud with the way it was implemented. It's already smart and green. So makikita po niyo all the facilities are underground, especially the power distribution. May sariling bicycle lanes, no? May sariling sidewalk na hiwalay. Kaya world-class design po itong mga roads natin. And this will serve, no, the future government agencies that will be relocating in New Clark City, especially Central Bank, the Philippines, their minting facility, the University of the Philippines, the Philippine Science High School, yung National Academy for Sports, na training ground natin for our future Olympians. They started their classes this October, so andun na po sila. And they're enjoying already these infrastructure developments. Next, to further make sure that the operations of Clark International Airport is world class, continue to modernize their facilities. So, tapos na po dito yung airfield lighting system, yung pong radar nila at 54% na. And then yung new control tower nila, ganun din po, no? And we will be also procuring equipment na for their new control tower. So with this, in some of the projects that I just mentioned, Mr. Chairman, and to support the programs that we will be implementing next year, next slide shown our request po sana, our parang lambing pa po namin kung po pwede, that in order to make full blast implementation of these projects, we will be needing po sana a total of 11 billion. But for next year, just to jumpstart this project, if we can have at least 2.5 billion for the housing facilities in Clark, utilities, Philippine Marines, and for Philippine Navy projects. And next slide is shown are the additional, if granted, the additional 2.5 billion peso request, and when added to the approved one, will amount to 4.6 billion. Pero historically po, pababa na rin naman po yung mga nakukuha naming GA support. But as we continue to implement these important projects, we see that we need to have this amount pa moving forward, 2024 and moving forward. So next. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the very efficient presentation. And at this point, we just have some questions. I'd like also, I understand that the BCDA has its own, generates its own revenue. May I ask about details about what kind of revenue generation you've been achieving, or you are going, or you are projecting?
So basically, So we are negotiating right now with DOTR under Secretary Bautista whether our offer is to, of course, to renew it, no, for the next 25 years. But they are willing to buy it now already and be included in the terms of reference in the privatization of the NAIA. So
If they're trying to privatize NAIA, doesn't that, if you have not negotiated that yet, yung renewal of the lease, how can they negotiate, how can they have a solicited proposal now? If the lease for the,
we already had an initial discussion na po with the OTR as to the amount that the lot can generate, and I think that is included in the terms of reference that the OTR has integrated in the terms of, in their own terms of reference, that the private sector can be the source of the payment for the value of the property.
I see. Well, I hope that you can resolve that. It's a major, major project. That
Yes,
I hope it's clear that
Yes,
you're,
it's around
if you have not,
59 hectares po
Yes.
yun eh.
and if you haven't negotiated yet your,
We already sent
your
the ano
terms.
po to DOTR. The
You have an
term
offer,
sheet.
so that's included in their.
Yes, sir.
So
We
you
already sent.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Which is what, a straight purchase or?
Purchase but payables in, yes, at may tawad po sila at least 10 to 15 years.
I see. I see.
Amortize. Para hindi rin mahirapan later on if the private sector will be the one to shoulder the cost of acquisition of the land.
I see. Okay. Moving on to the Clark Airport. I remember when I was DPWH secretary, ginagawa pa lang yung Clark Railway. And I understand that's not a BCDA project, but I was just curious kung ano na yung status ng Clark going to Manila, 'di ba? Yung what is it? The train?
The
train?
North-South Commuter Railway.
Yes, yes.
Nakakatuwa po na makita ngayon that the construction on site is in full swing. In fact, the girder along SCTEX na launch na kasi tatawid po siya sa SCTEX and then they will go under the runway, magiging subway siya doon. So what we're saying is that tuloy-tuloy na po yung construction ni DOTR under Secretary Bautista. We have provided the right of way inside Clark Freeport area, and I understand it's already more than 50% the Malolos to Tutuban. The Malolos to Clark International Airport is more than 30%. And we are also helping their contractors to have access not just in our area but also in the other LGU areas.
So what is the status of the Malolos to Tuban? Is it?
Malolos to Tuban is more than 50%.
I see. So the target is when? 2025?
End of 2025 or early 2026.
Okay.
And I was told by DOTR that the project will extend up to Calamba, and they have awarded most of the contract packages already, except the O&M. And the good thing about this project also for BCDA is right now they are doing a detailed design to do extension of the Manila-Clark Railway up to New Clark City. So to add another 19 kilometers, so they're doing the detailed design. And in our master plan, we have already provided the utility space, underground space, right-of-way space for that railway when should it come in New Clark City.
The Malolos to Tuban is what is it now? The construction? What is the status of the construction of the?
It's more than 50%, sir. It's between 50 to 60.
So also 2025, 2026.
Yes, sir, end of 2025.
That it'll be operational.
Yes.
Because I think that once that's finished, I think it's 45 minutes from Clark to Tuban. Tama ba?
55, sir.
55.
Under 1
Okay.
hour. So
Under
from
1
the Clark
hour.
Airport to Buendia or NAIA, it's under.
I think that's very critical
Yes,
for
sir.
the Clark to reach its potential.
Yes, sir. The connectivity.
Yeah, you mentioned there was an expansion for Clark, no? But as of now, there's existing operator for the Clark. Will they be the ones to fund the expansion, or is that government?
Under their contract, they are allowed to do some internal reorientation of the terminal to increase the capacity from 8 to 12. But beyond that, it's the government's ano na po yun, it's the government's role and whether to award it to them again or do a solicited process, that has not been decided yet. But in the concession agreement, what is clear, any expansion beyond the 12 million capacity that the terminal has will have to go to NEDA again for approval, the NEDA ICC.
I see. So,
So pwede pong hybrid ulit, kagaya po ng ginawa natin doon, that the government will have to spend first for the terminal, and then the operator will come in, reimburse us for the expense, and also give us revenue share for the operations.
at this point, how is the performance of the Clark Airport in terms of your projections?
We had more than 4 million passengers before the pandemic. It's 4 million 2019. Of course, 2020 and 2021 are low year period. In 2022, they have more than 800,000. And for 2023, they're targeting 2.7 million passengers. So the trajectory is to reach again 4 million passengers by next year, later next year, 2024.
I see. 2024.
Back pre-pandemic level po. Unlike in Metro Manila, ang bilis eh.
Yeah.
More than 100.
So I didn't catch that. What was 2023 again? Your levels? What was it?
End of 2023, it will be 2.7 million.
So hindi pa siya umaabot sa pre-pandemic.
Next year pa lang ho.
So
Mr. Chairman.
what is the capacity of Clark?
It's
No.
8 million.
So there's no rush to do there would be no rush to do the expansion now.
This year or
This
next year.
year, yeah.
But we would need to plan already the planning
No,
and this
definitely planning, I agree.
Yes, yes.
I'm just saying in terms of funding the full amount, baka it's not yet the
Yes.
time until you've reached the pre-pandemic
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah,
And-
but the clearing po is needed na.
Yes.
Clear the land.
So more on that, yung preparation works
Yes,
lang.
sir,
But yung actual, it might not be,
Yes.
baka hindi pa hinog na hinog.
Yes. Yes.
Especially if you're gonna, I would say 2026, hintayin nyo rin yung, dapat medyo isabay sa trend, di ba?
Yes,
Kung
yes.
2025, 26.
Yes, yes.
Maybe that's when
Mm.
2026 should be the target. Understanding, of course, it takes 2 to 3 years to build these structures also. So even if you do it today, you'd probably be finished. But it's good to anticipate. I think,
Yeah.
I think it's a good practice to anticipate the future. Although medyo pa lang, wala pa kayong 1/3 ng capacity, so it might be a little early. But yeah, and my final questions, I visited the Armory recently, and I know there's a plan to create a defense. I'm interested in our defense capacity for our country, and I understand you're making one in Bataan, like defense. Parang there's an area dedicated for defense industries to help promote. Are you aware of that, or do you know the status of that? Malapit sa Armory. Yes, Secdel.
Mr. Chairman, when I was the Secretary of Defense, there was a plan actually. There were bills filed in Congress about transforming the government arsenal into defense industry
Yes.
hub, but nothing happened of it. But it is actually a 280-hectare property, and it has the potential to be developed into a
Yes, I understand, Sec. They're negotiating the lease. I hope we can be, so I hope we can expedite this. Sayang din eh, kasi maganda rin kung maka-establish ng mga defense industries doon. At least, kailangan natin yan, especially given geopolitical.
Mr. Chairman, meron nang nagdalawang kumpanya na hanggang Korea doon that are relocated there. One is making magazines for M16, and the other one is making protective vests for soldiers.
Yes.
They're there now. I don't know what happened to them, but actually the area is our property of
Yes.
the government.
I understand ang latest update sa akin. Parang interesado sila, pero yung iba hindi sila makasundo sa rent. So hopefully maayos yan. But my point is, I hope you support this defense industry, this promotion of the defense industry. I think it's very relevant that to promote the defense industry. And if the BCDA has has properties that can help promote, sana bigyan din ng pansin yung projects sa development ng defense center in the
Mr. Chairman,
Philippines. Yes.
there are also some companies, Korean companies that would like to put up defense facilities in Nuclear City, but I don't think we could mix them with some of the facilities there. Mukhang hindi tugma baka yung gagawin nila, they will be making ammunitions or whatever ng ano. Hindi
Baka maganda itong Limay sa Limay.
Limay, so the
Yeah,
best-
sana ma-promote lang, Sec, kasi wala. Sa ngayon, sayang din yung area Puro,
it's just idle.
idle. Puro monkeys lang dun pero sana, I just want to bring that to your attention, and I hope that we can promote this, help the defense industries if we can create infrastructure.
We have
Mr. Chairman, in our property in Morong Bataan, while we have already donated 100 hectares for the Marines, we still have more than 250 hectares. So we can consider this kind of industries to support.
We should be able to make our own ammunitions, especially now. I think there's a certain, they're all sure. I'm sure, Sec, familiar naman po kayo. We have security issues. Pag, di ba? Kailangan din na magkaroon din tayo ng sariling defense industry to create basic war materials for to protect our sovereignty also. So yun lang. I visited the armory, and then they updated me on the status of the unfortunately wala pa masyadong locators, but I hope you can push for that. If they're locators, if they're local export-oriented businesses that want to locate there, sana bigyan din ng support para mapabilis yung pagtayo nila ng mga factories that can promote our defense industry, and I hope you can help with that also. Okay. Sec, thank you very much. I think I've exhausted my questions, and there's I don't think that there will be any more questions. We have none of the senators will be asking for the BCDA. So there being no more questions, and there being no objections, the budget of the BCDA is hereby approved on the committee level and deemed submitted to the plenary. Congratulations. I would like to convey my gratitude to the officials of the BCDA and your respective staff for the well-prepared budget presentations. Again, congratulations. And let us have a short break to give time for the BCDA to fix their things and give way to our friends from the SITEM. So, congratulations. Your patience, everyone. We will now resume our budget hearing. Proceed with the discussion of the budget of the Center for International Trade Expositions and Missions, or CITEM. Comsec, please kindly acknowledge the presence of our friends from CITEM.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me acknowledge our resource persons for this afternoon. We have Deputy Executive Director Maria Lourdes Mediran. We also have the Department Manager, Ms. Marzo Evayo. We also have Ms. Rowena Mendoza, Ms. Wilma Dulay, Ms. Carol Altarejos. We have Ms. Roshan Villanueva, Mr. Jonathan Abaya, Ms. Marilyn Calo, and lastly, we have Ms. Malerna Buyaw. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Before we call on CITEM for their 10-minute presentation, allow me to express my support for the agency. Being the export promotion arm of the Department of Trade and Industry, the CITEM has played a crucial role in the reliability and quality of our export products and services in the global market through trade fairs, missions, and other export promotion programs. Upon review of the agency's requested budget, we see that it totals 181 million pesos, wherein 120 million is allocated for its operations, a 26% increase from the prior year's budget. We are all hoping for the increased participation of the country in global trade. I'm hoping to hear how CITEM will utilize this requested budget to effectively deliver Philippine export goods and services to the global scene. Let us now call CITEM for their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Senator Villar. So on behalf of our Executive Director, I will make the presentation for CITEM. So please. So CITEM's mandate, to begin with, is of course, as you mentioned, sir, is to market and promote the Philippines as a reliable source of quality products and services in the global market through professionally managed trade fairs and missions and other export promotion programs. So it's important that we showcase the best of the Philippines in the world in order for us to reach a bigger, greater market, no? The global market. Okay, so next. The CITEM is consists of 4 departments and 20 divisions based on the organizational structure approved by the DBM in 2005 or 2008. So it is a very lean organization. We have 145 plantilla positions, out of which maybe 100 is filled up today. So for our 2022 accomplishment, we would like to report to this August body that CITEM generated a total of $824 million in export sales as reported to us by the MSMEs that participated in our projects. So the reported export sales were generated from our overseas trade fairs participations in 2022. 2022 po ito. So both in hybrid form, so that's both physical and digital. We have entered the digital scene in 2020 when the COVID came in. So we made use of the digital space and the digital platform to continue the promotion of our MSMEs despite our absence on the physical floor given the COVID pandemic. So we have supported close to 2,000 MSMEs that joined our projects in 2022. And we generated trade inquiries from 4,000 local and international trade buyers. So we are now barely recovering, Your Honor, from the effects of the pandemic. No, slowly we are now going back to the physical floor, to the physical show. And we started with our food event in September 2022, our International Food Exhibition at the World Trade Center. So in 2022, we have from the signature events alone, so this is from the hybrid and the digital platform for Manila Fame and for IFEX and Create Philippines, we generated 107 million from the signature events, and that represents 13% of the total reported sales of 824 million. So I go to the overseas trade fair promotions in hybrid and physical and digital format and our business matching events. So in 2022, we had 7 overseas trade fair participations, not necessarily physically but digitally also. And also a business-to-business series of meetings in Middle East and Africa, time with the Gulf Food Show, and also with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And our the total, how do you say it, outcome of from the overseas trade fairs that we conducted was $717.5 million worth of sales from 8,259 inquiries and 1,700 buyers. So the overseas fairs constituted 87% of the total export sales. And also, we'd like to report on the digital community platform and websites. So we have existing now, sir. We have 5 storefronts or digital platforms. No, Fame Plus for Manila Fame, the gifts and houseware sector. We have IFEX Connect for the food sector. And Food Philippines, we have Create Philippines for the creative sector in support of the PISIDA law of the PISIDA, of the Philippine Creative Industries Development Act. And we have sustainability platform to support our initiatives for sustainability. So for our 2022 financial performance, okay, so for 2022, we have received an allotment of 152 million. And out of that, we are able to obligate 132 million. And out of the 132, we are able to disburse 130.8 million. So the absorptive capacity is around 88%, Your Honor. So for this year, for 2023, we are happy to report that we have generated already total sales of 226.8 million for 1,100 SMEs and the 2,000 or booked by 2,000 local and international buyers. We mounted again the physical show for the food sector, International Food Exhibition, last May at the World Trade Center. And we are happy to note that the exhibitors are happy to be back on the physical floor. While we have attained like only 80% of the total number of exhibitors compared to the 2019 pre-pandemic level, we see the positivity of the exhibitors on the trade floor during the IFEX show at the World Trade Center. And also from January to September this year, we did 5 overseas trade fairs. Ambiente in Frankfurt, Gulf Food in the Middle East to promote our halal products. Maison et Objet, digitally for our home fashion and lifestyle products, and the China ASEAN Expo recently in Nanning. So for this year, we had $63 million so far, January to September, sir.
Next slide.
Sorry. Next slide. So we have already also accomplished a lot from our digital platform. So we have onboarded more than 500 exhibitors. We have received close to 300,000 website visitors, those who visited our website. And we have close to 900,000 website page views. So we are able to promote our products through the web. We maintain both the physical now and the digital po. So our budget is kinda divided. Next slide. For the financial performance so far, we have received 119 million, out of which we have incurred obligations of 114 million already and disbursements of 80 million. So we would like to be able to report to you, sir, that we will also be doing a special event meeting. We will be hosting a special meeting. It's called the ASEAN Trade Promotions Meeting. The Philippines will host this meeting of CEOs this coming October at the Fairmont Hotel. The Philippines will host this. ATPF is a group of 23 TPOs, similar to our counterpart in 23 countries. And we will be hosting this event after 32 years, sir. So we are hoping that you can find time for that. But this will be in October nga po, 18.
Magpapa-invite ako sana eh.
Po.
Magpapa-invite siya.
Sir, may invite ka na.
May invites po. We sent invites.
We sent invite to your office
Okay.
during the technical hearing. Kasi according even to Jethro, to the Secretariat, after 3 decades, we have a lot to tell and to show the world. So I think this is also an important activity. Naisingit naman ho namin ito sa budget this year. Maliit lang naman ho. So for our 2024 proposal, sir, budget proposal, so we will first report on our target, no? So for our outcome indicators, we are targeting a 20% increase from our 2023 target of 718 companies. We would like to see 47% of the companies in signature events returning to the show in next year. We would like to see a 20% increase in our export target in 2023. And for our output indicators, malito ang aming, kasi na-report ko na po sa inyo, 250 million na yung dollars ang aming export orders. But now our target for next year is only 80 million. Because we maintain the targets nga ho, kasi we are recovering, but happily nga we are able to generate actual. But when we submitted this to the DBM for under the NEP, we have not yet gathered the actual results for 2022. So this is a conservative target po. So we are targeting close to 900 SMEs to join our shows, to generate close to 7,000 inquiries, and 3,200 foreign buyers to visit the Philippine pavilion in our overseas fairs and in our signature events. So for our budget, sir, you mentioned earlier, we have the DBM has recommended the President's budget na po ito, ano, is 181 million for next year. We are given 164 million this year, so that's a 10% increase. Barely enough to cover the foreign exchange differential. Kasi when we made the proposal 50 pesos to $1, it's now 57.50 po. So,
When you say operation, that's the cement, that's the actual, that's what you spend for your events,
Yes,
the
po.
fairs, that's operation.
opo.
The other is ano yung administrative. Okay.
Out of the 181, sir, 121 goes to operations to the projects. 24 to our institutional services to Corplan, mga MIS ng sa item, and then 34 million for our general and administrative support. Our biggest challenge now, sir, is really the revenue earning capacity of the corporation. Because the SMEs who are helping are only recovering from the COVID. But we have to start charging them already this year for the physical show to be able to recoup a part of to recover lang a part. At least lang 50% of the cost of the project we are able to recover in terms of revenues. Participation fees, basically, that is the main revenue stream.
So when you organize, pero usually hindi naman covered yung lahat ng costs. I mean, subsidized pa rin. Like yung mga fame, ganyan, hindi nyo nare-recover yung...
No, hindi
Ah,
po.
Pero meron pa rin. I mean, may...
Yung po, ang target po natin under the GCG is at least 45% is we are able to recover, at least 45% to cover our salaries and wages. So for our, just to mention, ito ho yung PAF tier 2 po, yung tier 2, this covers our hybridization, the digital platform, no? So it gives us gives you the breakdown of where the digital platform.
Slide na lang.
Next slide.
Next slide, please.
So you will see here that the 47 million under tier 2 goes to the hybridization of signature events, overseas hybrid promotions, content and advertising programs for our platforms, and web maintenance. We have to maintain 6 websites for the different projects so that the buyer can access our products 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Hindi lang limited ho dun sa 4 days ng trade fair, no? So, and nakita natin, maganda rin ho yung resulta talaga ng digital, and we cannot be absent from the digital space, Your Honor. So, yun lamang po. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your presentation, and I think based from what I saw, I see that there's really the government has it's a very, if you generate a lot of revenues, so in terms of yung like what I saw is 200, you generate $200 million on a 120 million peso budget. So 120 ba or 160 or 120. Well, anyway, on a relatively small budget, you're able to generate high revenues. And I've attended your events, yung fame, and
Thank you.
minsan-minsan na-invite din ako. So nakikita ko naman yung mga events. It's very impressive. I have to commend you on that. Yung fame, parang nagkakaroon din ng following eh. Inaabangan. So I hope you can, I mean, I'm sure you will continue it. And if ever, baka kailangan madagdagan pa yung mga events. I don't know, maybe for other products, you know. Even for applications. I know there's a growing mga very innovative mga startups. I don't know if you can do something related to that also. I don't know. They're also looking for support funding somehow. That's another industry that I think is also we have a lot of potential because of our human capital. So that's something. But from just some questions. What are some of the major, in terms of revenue generation, what are the major products or types of products that we see are very marketable abroad?
If I may po, it's really food.
Food.
Oh, because of this basic need tapos consumable.
Mm.
So yun daw, yung ni-report po namin from overseas fairs. Yung overseas fairs, the biggest contributor was CII, sir, China International Import Expo. Where
So,
we showcase food products.
is that processed foods or what is more, I guess, saleable? Yung mga processed foods, or are you talking like basic agricultural, yung raw?
Meron din po, it's a combination of fresh and processed.
But what is more in demand now?
Ah,
If I may
Yes,
also
yes.
Sir,
respond.
yeah.
Well, I just came from China ASEAN Expo this September, and what we featured were fresh durian, and that's the most saleable product, especially now that we have already started
Yes.
exporting fresh durian last April, our first shipment.
Is that,
So-
so when you talk about that $200 million, what percent of that is these food products? What percent, more or less? A ballpark, hindi naman kailangan saktong-sakto, but more or less. I just want to get an idea of...
For this year po, January to September, we had a recorded $226.8 million.
Yes.
The biggest amount having come from CIIE. So sir, nandito po ang top sellers are fresh fruits, condiments and snacks, coffee, desiccated coconut and coconut milk and coconut
So
oil.
these are these are not finished products. These are raw material, agricultural products, basically. More on...
Yeah, agricultural.
I see.
Agricultural base po.
So
Manufactured
you're able to connect basically these producers of these farmers, almost industrial, these farmers.
Yes po, with the Department of Agriculture, sila po.
Sila nagre-refer sa iyo, and then how do these Chinese buyers, they attend the food expo here?
Yes.
Ah,
And the food, we joined CIIE po in Shanghai.
so if I'm a local producer of one of these products, paano ba ako makakarating sa China? Lalapit ako sa SITEM and then I'll pay, or paano ba?
Apo. Sir, ang ideal po doon, syempre, kung may capacity na ho kayo, meron po ang eligibility ang SITEM. We do screening kasi some of the companies may not be ready to sell globally. But you may approach the DTI office in your province or in your region, sir. Normally, the DTI, through the OTOP, they will organize a pavilion of exhibitors almost export ready and
Is there a website?
sa
Like halimbawa ako, I'm a farmer of durian. Gusto kong naghahanap ako ng buyer sa China. Gusto kong sumali.
ay po muna.
Lalapit ako sa DTI. Is there a website where I can register? Is there some... How will I access the SITEM?
DTI office po muna
Ah.
in your province, then the DTI office will go to us.
Okay.
Opo. Kasi mas accessible po yung DTI regional and provincial offices, di po ba?
Yes, but maybe at some point you should have a website for these too. So parang email, di ba? Yung mga ganyan.
Sir, for normally po, kasi we have our regular activities po, no? If it's IFEX, we normally have yung ifexconnect.com, which is our website.
Yes.
Doon po na kami nagbibigay ng access for those who would like to register.
Yeah,
sa
kasi
site.
I don't think there are that many buyers or that many producers of scale in the Philippines. You can actually go to each one of them and give them, okay, mag-register na kayo dito sa website or whatever. They don't actually have to go to minsan yung office, hindi naman always,
Yes.
hindi rin accessible yung tao sa office.
Yes.
So, I mean, it might be more practical. Oh, here, why don't you register in our website or email us at this address so we can, and you can even track them kasi I don't think there are that many, of that scale that can export to China. Ilan lang naman yan, I mean. But yeah, that's I'm happy that there's so much potential that we have yet to. In fact, if you were given extra budget, what would you focus it on?
Thank you po. If we were given extra budget, sir,
What
We
would be your
would get-
priority?
we would get bigger space in overseas trade fairs. One of them being Gulf food in Dubai, which is also based for halal products. And we can also get bigger space sa CIIE. Plus, in the
So
Anuga.
how is that? Kukuha kayo ng space sa CIIE.
Opo.
You pay for that.
Oh, yes.
And then you would sell it to
To them, subsidized rate.
You'd sell it at a discounted rate
Yes.
to the businesses that pass your
To the
your
companies. Opo.
I see.
Together already na po yun. Ang gagawin na lang ho nila is to join the fair and put their
So
items
how
on
much
the
how
show.
big a space can you get now with your budget?
Sir, mga 90 square meters.
So what is your ideal, you feel?
Ideally, siguro we can get 200
And
square.
if you get 200, what kind of sales can you generate for 200?
Kasi we can bring in more exhibitors. Di ko ba?
Yeah,
More
yes,
companies.
definitely. No, I agree. I
And
agree.
hopefully, siguro times
So,
2.
and how much would that cost?
Times 2 rin po ng
So how much do you pay for it? More or less, how much would you pay for? What is your budget for that CIIE?
For CIIE, we have a budget of about 10 million.
10 million.
So what you need is
That's per 100
additional.
square meters.
So what you need is an additional budget. Under
Mm-mm.
what item is that? That just general operational fund or something?
under po ng operations lang yun.
Under
Nakalampas up as under ng operations.
So all you would need is about 10 million to double your size
For that show.
for that show. Yeah, yes. Okay. Okay.
For that show.
But I think in my personal from what the numbers I have to say that it's very impressive. Bang for your buck. And you really generate, and I think especially with China, that's such a big market. So
Yes,
maybe.
exactly.
So is there there's an over yung I guess undersupply of space for our producers. Hindi sila nakakakuha individually. They cannot go through directly. Walang kumukuha directly sa.
Meron po, the big companies,
They do.
kung San Miguel sila, they can get liwayway marketing because they already have a
Yes,
presence
yeah.
in China. Yung mga ganun ho, on their own, they can go, they can get. But kung kukunin lang nila is 18 square meters for their company, ang liit lang ho, they will be placed near the toilet, the location.
So
will
anong
not
nangyari?
be-
Parang lahat ng products under one roof. And then they can, so it's not, hindi nyo naman hinahati yung 90 square. Parang isang buo yan.
Meron ho, meron ho tayong design, sir, sa ating booth design. Kasi sa item, that's
Yes.
the exhibition design, di ba? Meron ho kasing iba, they prefer na may sarili ho silang booth. Kasi sabi nila, they cannot converse well with the buyers kung isang institutional parang participation sila. But there are instances.
When is this CIIE? When is this?
This will be this
we-
November 5 to
November
10.
5 to 10, sir.
Where is it? In
Shanghai.
Shanghai.
This
Might be, let me know kung kailan.
Yes po, so
Opo.
Pero so I can see the booth. I'm interested
yeah,
to see.
if we can also well, we'll offer that yung ano po, yung event namin and send you an invitation if there will
Yes,
be an
yes. Thank you.
opportunity for you to come.
Thank you. Very interesting. Yeah. So at this point, thank you very much to CITEM for your comprehensive presentation. And at this point, since there are no more questions and there are no more objections, the budget of the CITEM is hereby approved on the committee level and deemed submitted to the plenary. Congratulations. I would like
Sir.
to convey my gratitude to the officials of CITEM and their respective staff for the well-prepared budget presentations. Again, congratulations, and sana ma-invite din ako paminsan-minsan. And then, na-invite naman ako in fairness. But thank you for inviting.
We would like to express, sir, our really appreciation for your support. Naramdaman naman po namin yan talaga dun sa IFEX natin. And also the support of Madam Cynthia.
Yes,
She's
of course.
been one of our ardent talaga supporters of the show.
Yes, we have very good, I attended regularly. I'm always very impressed by the product. So I think let's work together to hopefully we can increase the CITEM. It's a very, the performance speaks for itself. I congratulate
Thank
you.
you
And
po.
at this point, we can have a short break and for our next
Sir,
agency, which is SP
may I
Corp.
take this opportunity
Yes.
to invite you personally to the Manila Fame. We will be coming back on the physical floor this October 19,
Congratulations.
20, and 21.
Very, very popular event. I hope you
The
have more.
most beautiful show in
Yes,
Asia.
yes. I hope you have more, and I will support you in
sir.
this,
Thank
in
you.
all your endeavors. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you very much po. Picture daw po, sir, with you.
obtained by qualified small enterprises and voluntary organizations. As an advocate for the development of MSMEs, the goals and values of the corporation are close to my heart, particularly the provision of alternative financing for our small and medium enterprises. Additionally, the Pondo para sa Pagbabago at Pag-aasenso or P3 program, which is implemented by the SB Corp, is now on its way to being institutionalized as I have co-authored the P3 Act that is now filed before the Senate. With a requested budget of 1.5 billion pesos, let us hear from SB Corp and how they will utilize their budget for the interests of their main stakeholders. Let us now call on SB Corp for their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the strong message of support to SB Corp. Okay, this presentation is going to be very brief and straight to the point. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So, what is the P3 program or the Pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-asenso? The P3 program is a financing initiative of the government during the time of then President Duterte to assist microenterprises by providing affordable microloans with monthly interest ranging from 1% to 2.5%. The loanable amount is a maximum of 300,000 pesos. Next slide, please. To date po, as of 2023, the P3 program has a cumulative on-lending fund of 8.25 billion. So later on, I will show you the cumulative distribution every year. So as of end September, so just a few days ago, a total of 15.9 billion in P3 program funds have been released to around 331,000 distinct MSMEs. So as you can see po, dito sa nabigay po na pondo on lending fund from 2017 to 2023 na 8.25 million, almost double na po. So naparilend na po ng SB Corp, napaikot na po yung pondo, almost doubling na po yung releases as of end September 2023. Next slide. So, yan po yung breakdown po ng annual sa GAA po, yung allocation po under the GAA sa SB Corp, which is, as I mentioned earlier, is now 8.25 billion. So, nakahiwalay na po dito yung component under mobilization and monitoring fund. Next slide. So, for the 2024 budget proposal, as champion po, as supported by our friends in Congress and the Senate, as well as in the executive branch, the proposal is the same po, Tier 1 funding of 1.5 billion. This is a subsidy to the SB Corp to be used for implementation of the P3 program. So yun pong lahat po ng rules with regards to the program is approved po by the Secretary of the Trade and Industry, and yun po yung ini-implement ng SB Corporation. Next slide. So ito po yung 1.5 billion for 2024. And just to further add po, Mr. Chair, ito pong pag-download po ng SB Corporation is done via two modalities. One is via wholesale lending to our partner institutions, mostly cooperatives, some rural banks and other commercial banks and financing institutions. And likewise through direct lending to our microenterprises. Ang atin pong particular request po sa committee is that for 2024, while we are awaiting for hopefully ma-ratify na po yung ating maging Republic Act na po yung P3 program, pero while awaiting for its ratification, we are requesting for a minor increase in our mobilization and monitoring fund allocation from 5% to 10%. Wala po itong naman magiging change doon sa magiging pong entry under the GAA, that would still remain at 1.5 million. But this increase would simply reflect the likewise increase in the cost of mobilizing. If ma-approve po yung 1.5 billion, that would now be a cumulative lending fund of around 9.7 billion for as of 2024. So malaking bagay po na ma-increase po yung ating mobilization fund from 5% to 10%.
Excuse me, Senior Vice President, I don't want to waste any of your time at this point, and perhaps it's better for us to discuss in order for us to get a better understanding, because I really have specific questions for the president, and since you're the only one here who attended, I don't know if you'll be able to answer our questions sufficiently. So that being said, I think we will at this point we will defer the deliberation of the budget of SB Corp to another day and suspend this hearing until the president becomes available. So without any objection, this hearing is suspended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.